Hey everyone, I want to give you an update on what's happening within the Phoenix metro area with regard to real estate, its values, and whether or not the market is going to crash. So I won't hold you in suspense. I don't believe that the market is going to crash, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. What I can do is share with you some of the data, and that will tell us kind of where the market is going, where we've come from, and maybe kind of help us to understand whether or not now is the right time to sell, it's the right time to buy, whether it's a second home, a first home, whatever that looks like for you and your family. It's really a very personal decision that matters depending on who you are and what your circumstances are. So I'm going to jump into the data, but please know that this represents single family homes, townhouses, and condos, and it's for the entire Phoenix metro area, which would include Phoenix, Scottsdale, Carefree, Cave Creek, Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler. So it's a very large area. So some of these numbers that I'm talking about may not be as relatable to you depending on where you live. But if you want more information or something that's more specific to your town, your zip code, or even your development, I'd be happy to help you with that. Just send me a message or give me a call and I'd be happy to discuss your needs with you in particular. So I'll start with the median list price. And what I'm doing is I'm comparing this data from March of last year to March of this year, as well as February to March. So I'm looking at year over year and then month to month to give us an idea as to just what's happening, particularly with the recent bank situation where we've got some bank closures and there's been a little bit of concern about that, and you can actually see that, I believe, represented in some of the numbers. So I'm going to start off with the median list price and how that's changed over the year and from month to month. From month to month, it's been flat. We had a median list price of $469,000 for the month of March 2023. Last year, it was $480,000 for the month of March, which represents a slight decrease of 2.3%. So if you're buying a house and you're looking at inventory or properties for sale, you're more than likely going to notice that the prices are a little bit lower than they might have been last year. So that's a great thing if you're looking to buy a home. Doesn't mean it's gotten any more affordable, but at least the prices are kind of adjusting to your benefit. Now, the median sales price, and I think this is something that a lot of people have focused on, particularly with the month-over-month numbers. I've read headlines where they say March was the first time in 12 months that they saw an increase in the month-over-month sales data with regard to median sales price. And when I look at this, I see in February of 2023, the median sales price was $421,500 compared to March, which was $428,000. So we saw an increase of 1.5%. So if you're a seller, you're saying, great, the market's coming back, maybe things are a little bit better. And that might be the case. We actually saw a lot more activity from the beginning of this year, and it's been very enlightening, very inspiring, and very exciting, particularly if you're in the mortgage business or if you are a realtor, because let's face it, we all have families to support ourselves and bills to pay. So we want to make sure that we're able to meet our needs financially and help as many families as we can. So the median sales price year over year did adjust from $469,900 to $428,000, which represents a decrease of 8.9%. So there was a 9% decrease in the median sales price year over year, even though the values have gone up month to month, so it's still a little bit softer of a market than what we saw last year because of the interest rates. The interest rates are still higher today than what they were last year. But they're still historically low. So if you're looking to buy a home, I know 6.5% or something along those lines sounds kind of scary, but it's really all kind of relative. When I look at the listings, and this is where we get into what's happening with the market. Is it going to crash? It's what people are predicting. The values will come down another 20%. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't see this happening, and I'll tell you why. When we look at the number of listings, we had 10,426 listings come to market last March. This March, we had 7,318 listings. So we saw less homes come to market. And if you remember what last year looked like, there was already a shortage of supply. And the market was begging for that inventory just to come to market because there was such a high level of demand. So now that the supply has actually been reduced, it's still kind of propping up those values, if you will, to the point where we haven't seen any crash, because that relationship between supply and demand ultimately is what determines the direction of values. That said, the listings are down 29.8% from this time last year, but up 1.7% from February of this year into March. The inventory, and this I think tells the story as well, last year there were 7,105 properties for sale in the Phoenix metro area. This March there were 16,063 properties available for sale. Now that's an increase of 126%, which is more than twice as much. Sounds like a lot. I know it's a number that a lot of people have been focused on when they look at the market data, and they're kind of saying, "Oh, there's so much inventory coming to the market. It's building, and things are gonna fall out. The bottom is gonna fall out on values." But again, we haven't seen that, just because there is still a good level of demand. Maybe not what we've seen in the last 2 years, but a good level of demand. And if you look at inventory historically within the Phoenix metro area, there were years where it was not uncommon to see the number of homes for sale exceed 20,000 homes for sale. So, it's historically is probably kind of moderate, but we'll take a closer look. Now let's compare the number of sales. Last year, we had 9,671 sales compared to this year, which was 7,162 sales. So that's a decrease of 26%, and that's pretty considerable. What I find to be a little bit more interesting, though, is that in February, we had 5,391 closed transactions compared to that 7,162, which is now an increase of 32.9% from month to month. Keep in mind, there's some seasonality in some of this data. So just month to month doesn't necessarily give you a trend, but it gives you a comparison of where the market was last month relative to this month. And where I think that is important is related to the bank failures that we saw in the month of March. So keep that in mind. We also saw the interest rates drop a little bit as a result of that too, which I think may have spurred some people to jump back into the market because affordability became a little bit better for them. Now, when I look at the new contracts, this also kind of tells a little bit of a story here. We had 8,994 contracts last March. This March, we had 5,010. That's a difference of 44.3%, which is a very big number. And this is where I kind of say realtors and mortgage people alike, anybody in the real estate business or associated with the real estate business who relies on transactions, to pay their bills is definitely feeling the impact of this. When we look at month to month, we've also seen a decline in pendings from 6,193 in February to that 5,010, which represents about 19%. So maybe those bank failures did have a little bit of an impact on a market, because remember, closed sales is a lagging indicator versus pending, which is a little bit more immediate. So there may have been an impact with those bank closures. Then when we look at days on market, of course, we know it takes a little bit longer for things to sell just because of the market. It's not crazy like it was in 2020, 2021, 22. 23 is really a different environment. We saw 23 as an average days on market for March of 2022 compared to 66 days on market, which is about two months in order to sell your home on average. Doesn't mean it takes 2 months to sell a home. It just means that's kind of the average time that it's taking for people to sell property. The month supply of inventory also went from, and this is kind of crazy, less than 1 month supply last year in March to now 2.24 month supply. So there's still a very tight supply. Where it's a balanced market is basically that 5 to 6 month supply relative to demand. So if we've got 5 or 6 months supply, that means it's a balanced market. Seller doesn't have any real advantage, or buyer doesn't have any advantage. It's just a nice, clean negotiation. You work things out between the two of you. We're still in that seller's market. So if you are a seller and you're priced compared to what the market should be, you should do very well, and you'll likely get multiple offers. As a matter of fact, we had a property listed with our office this past weekend where they had an open house and had more than 60 families come into this open house with multiple offers. So depending on where you position the property will ultimately determine the experience that you're going to have as a seller. And as a buyer, it's important to take a look at every property based on its own merit within its own neighborhood to really understand what you should do, what your offer strategy might look like. And I would highly suggest that you work with your lender as well as your real estate agent to really determine what the best way to acquire that property is going to be if it's something that you really want. Because there's different things that you can do while you're negotiating. And then I'll leave off with this, and this is the list price to sales price ratio. Last year, we were at 102%, which means that everything was pretty much selling for above list. If you've been in the market, whether you were selling or buying, you probably remember that. I know some sellers that absolutely miss those days. I know some agents that miss those days. But if you're a buyer, you're happy to know that today there's a little bit more room to negotiate, and there's an ability at least to negotiate sometimes, where now we're at 98% of the list price is the average that properties are selling for. So if you have any questions about your specific circumstances or how this data, works for you and your family and how it relates to what your needs are, by all means, send me a message. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Or if you'd like to give me a call, you can give me a call as well. I'll leave the information down below. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening within the Phoenix metro area, please subscribe and you'll get those alerts. And if you feel the need to share this with anybody that you think would benefit from this information, please do, and I'd be happy to help them as well. Have a great day, happy house hunting, and happy house selling.